Hey folks, hey Long Beach. I don't know if anybody is still up, but if you are up, I hope you join us. If you join us, give us a thumbs up. It's Jerlene and I'm live I know I was live earlier today, folks, but I'm live. It is 9:25 at night. Now, there's a reason I'm going live this late because the candidate who has joined me just finished canvassing. Okay. And this was what was convenient. Well, I wouldn't even say convenient, what was possible. So, hey, Mariela. So tonight, I'm being joined by Mariela Salgado. So if folks are watching us, you watch us now, you watch us later. It's Jerlene live from Long Beach, a talk of the town, continuing the conversation with different political candidates running for local office. For if you don't know, we got a problem. If you don't know, June 7th is an election happening in our city in Long Beach, in the state of California. There's an election, the primary election. If you've been checking your mailboxes, you would have received this lovely, beautiful sample ballot. I don't know if y'all can see that. And you would have already received a mail-in ballot. So you may have already voted. And maybe you just want to be entertained. Okay. But actually, this is going to be more than entertainment. This is going to be more than entertainment. It's going to be information. I'm joined by Mariela Salgado, candidate for the Long Beach City Council District 1. And actually, I was excited earlier when I went live with the candidate, but I'm really excited about this candidate. And before I introduce her, I'm going to tell you why I'm excited. Now, I know I've been doing a commentary, all politics are local. I've been talking about different things in politics, but one thing I have not done is talked about who I am in support of. But this is one candidate that I am in support of. I will put my name behind. I'll put my face up to Miss Mariela Salgado. And I actually met Mariela when she ran for office in 2019. And I have to say that I was so inspired when she ran in 2019. At the time, I actually lived in District 1. I now live in a different district. But I was so inspired by her. That election, that race was one of the things that inspired me to start doing this political commentary. And then it was just about District 1. It was just about the school board race that was happening in my community. And this go round, I'm actually talking about citywide and outside of the city in the different elections. So anyway, Mariela, welcome. Mom, do you have a cape on under that jacket right there? Do you have a cape on? No, you don't. I'm sure you do. So I want to welcome to the stage, although she's already out on the stage, Miss Mariela Salgado, running for 1st District City Council. Thank you for joining me late night. And can you just, you've been live with me many times before. We've been doing this. We've been going live doing commentary on education, having conversations around education. And tonight I get to be graced with your presence for another purpose. So I'm gonna yield. I'm gonna stop talking, and please tell folks what's up.
Well, I'm running for Long Beach City Council. I'm the proud candidate for Long Beach City Council District 1 again. I think this race in the 2019 election, I felt it was necessary. I learned the behind the scenes of politics. And what I learned was that our interests as community weren't really at the table. And so in the 2019 election, I felt it was necessary. In this election cycle, I feel a sense of urgency. I think we've got a lot of big decisions ahead of us. We're coming from a pandemic, what the future will look like for Long Beach, the economic recovery. You did say, I'm a mother first and foremost, but also I'm a small business owner who depends on the economic viability of the city. I serve on a number of boards. I'm an education advocate, and I find that what the future will look like really requires an independent voice. And the only way we're going to have that is if we have a candidate and a council member who is not tied to special interests. So while this race is for District 1, I often tell people and supporters who are in East, West, and North Long Beach, this seat really is deciding for the entire city. We bear the responsibility for the constituent services of this district, but really as a council member, we bear the responsibility for the entire city. And that's in part why I think I'm getting in this election, I'm getting definitely more support from outside of this district. That's allowing me to really continue to move this conversation, not just here but across the city. And it's important that people know you have people who really, as I said to you, and I always tell people, we need public servants, not politicians. I can't hear you.
You couldn't hear me, but I'm sure you saw the we need public servants, not politicians, right? Um, I am really excited that you entered into this race again. I'm really excited. And I agree with you in your stance, and that there needs to be an independent voice, and that our council seats are more than just the area in which the council person is to serve. So, okay, second go around. Last election, you lost by 163 votes.
Mm-hmm.
That's and so folks that are paying attention, I talk about all politics are local and every vote counts. Every vote counts. So please keep that in mind. So 163 votes. What's going on for you in this campaign season? Like what were there some lessons that you learned last time, or what, like how are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Just tell us all about it.
Tell us all. Well, there's definitely some muscle memory, right? I mean, the first one is I to be honest, I had zero intentions of running for office. My brother was the sort of the politician in the household. I have a master's in business administration. I worked in operations and project management. I didn't have any interest in politics, but in that 2019 election, there's two things that we talk about in terms of how you win a race. One is obviously strategy, but the other is the viability of a candidate. And so for me, is I have checked off so many boxes in community that I really thought I had to stand in my own merit in a way that was necessary in that election in 2019. I'm a mother first and foremost of two elementary aged children. As I said, I'm a business owner, but I was really in community. I tell people all the time, I'm always on the weekends serving, not just here in the first district but across the city. And so I had a lot of relationships with people, and that's what gave me sort of the sense of I can run for office in 2019. And here in this election cycle, there's muscle memory, but there's also a sense of like an independence that I honestly don't think I really had in the 2019, because it's the first time it's unfamiliar territory. But this time around, some of what happens, you know what to expect. I know to expect, for instance, and that although I lost by 163 votes, I was outspent 10-1. It was a $20,000 campaign against well over $200,000 of special interest. And I tell people all the time, special interest wears many hats in the city. It's not just the typical, what people think of like developers or businesses that have big stake in the city. It actually wears a lot of different hats. So in this cycle, I also recognize that I'm going to encounter that all over again. And I've been a little bit more vocal about it, because I think people don't really understand what happens when I used to believe as a Democrat that, when I saw the emblem of supported by the Democratic X, I believed that endorsement supported my values. And what I've learned is that it isn't actually a very neutral, or what I say, an objective decision making. It's very much stacked in a way that doesn't allow for the public to really look at a candidate for the work that they do, for the experience that they have, and what they will do or bring into to support and be of service to community. So this looks a little different, but there's a lot that I remember from the 2019 election, and how I approached it is a little different as well. We're recovering from a pandemic. People I find are very, unfortunately, are apathetic, but I think people really need to start to understand. And when I knock on those doors, I tell them I lost by 163 votes, which tells me two things. One, are people are looking for change, and two, your vote is super important.
You mentioned $20,000. What in that 2019 election? You said you put in 20,000. What was your opposition's campaign kitty? What was the size of that? Including, because I know, including IEs, if you have that
So
number
the
combined.
candidate raised a little over $120,000, 125,000, and there was another 100,000 of special interest, independent expenditures. So, like many of us, I'm receiving a lot of mailers. I'm what you consider a high propensity voter. I vote every election. So independent expenditures are not, I am unaware of whatever comes my way or the other way. I'm not supposed to know. So when you're getting your inbox, I know for one, here in the first district, we've gotten well over, in our household, well over 30 mailers. The amount of money
Wow,
that's going into
wow.
these campaigns and special interest in these campaigns, who's interested in ensuring that a specific individual stays either in office or comes into office. People should really start to think about and do some homework around that. But in this election, I just got an independent expenditure notice again today, and it's well over another $125,000 that's coming our way, from outsiders, not
Mhm.
from the people of Long Beach, not from residents or those that are here. It's from outside interest.
For folks that have been following me on the series All Politics Are Local, I've been showing some of the financial records of some of the campaigns. So, Mariela, what she's speaking of is the independent expenditure. So these are campaign funds that are raised by folks independent of a candidate. So you said just today well, I don't know if it was today or within the last couple of days, you received a new notice of, you said $150,000.
I don't. It's a notice that tells me there's an aggregate amount of over 150.
Okay, aggregate. So that means collectively what they've collected over the last few. So a lot of folks have been receiving mailers, and the one thing that I've been sharing with people is to take a look to see who is on the bottom part of that mailer, who's responsible for it. Um, uh, as you hear, Mariella, her competitor, her opposition, one of her oppositions, because you have how many people are in your race right now?
There's five of us.
There's five. So there's five people in the race. One of them, which is considered that's an incumbent, is receiving a large blocks of money from outside of the city. How? So you did so well. Well, I don't want to get into your strategy. I don't want to get into your strategy because I don't want people to know how you
I
did
don't
so
give it
well in the
away anyway.
in the last election. And I know this is not necessarily about the feeling, but I do want to know, how does that make you feel? Like knowing that so much money is being put into our elections from outsiders, and that they get to tell a narrative that may not even be accurate to what's happening in our city.
I mean, I think most of us, right? We're at a juncture, like I said, where it's post pandemic. Um, we're realizing what the status quo has or hasn't provided for us. So when we think about, for example, the amount of projects that have been decided where we have been at a disadvantage as a taxpayer, let's talk about the community hospital, for instance. There was some reporting about who made the decision to move forward that project and who's on the hook for it. There's so many decisions like that where you start to wonder whether the people on council are really looking for our best interest. Are they supporting what we need to continue to grow in this city? And special interest, in my opinion, has I said, in the 2019, I got to know a lot about the vying interest, and I understand. So, for example, one group that came out during the pandemic was the restaurants. They organized to try to have a voice about reopening. What did it look like? The parklets, the open space. Completely understand why they need to organize. They want a voice as to how they want to proceed during the pandemic and recover. I mean, I'm a small business owner. We took an enormous hit, just like most industries during the pandemic. So I understand that, but that's just a small fish. There's so many bigger fish in the conversation that I think it really does a disservice to what is important to us as residents, really the people of Long Beach. And so I can test this idea that um, they're really looking in our best interest. So 2021, 2022 is here, and
Well, redistricting. So we went through redistricting. When you ran in 2019, the district looked different. How different does it look now? Like, how has that changed campaigning for you? And I took down my beautiful map, y'all. I forgot to put it back up. But if you can describe to us the changes that took place in your district, because like I said, I was a former first district resident. I live in the lower west side, and now I am part of the seventh. And I know that my part of town, I am west of the 710 freeway. We are now part of the seventh. So on the other side of the 710 freeway, what changes took place on
well,
your
I
side?
always thought of the first district was pretty diverse in the former first district. In the second and in the new redistricting, it definitely holds that sort of on a higher level in terms of not just an ethnic background but also in income levels. We have oceanfront properties, and then on the other end we have the Washington neighborhood. We have the port. We have the Shoreline Village. So there's a lot of different interests, different types of people and entities. In terms of the voter, I definitely think we have a more informed voter that has been absorbed in the first district, and one that has, in my opinion, based on just what I've done with door knocking and calling and meeting voters and businesses, people that are not too happy about the current state of affairs for our city. So, we're getting a lot of mailers that say otherwise, but I'm hitting the streets and boots on the ground, and I will tell you that what many people aren't very happy about. What does the economic recovery look like for our city, and um, does it look like we're moving forward?
Something that has been, obvious, not just in your race, but in many of the races, is the number of endorsements that people have been getting. And I mean, it was what, a day before the filing period that you got into the race? Was a day, 2 days?
No, the day of.
The day of, okay,
Surprise.
the day of, that you got into the race. Um, Thank you, first of all, thank you. Yet prior to that, there had been a lot of endorsement announcements prior to you getting into the race. So you get into the race the day of, that means there's a lot of endorsements that you did not receive. What are your thoughts on this whole endorsement process that takes place here in our local politics?
Well, I said earlier, I alluded to, like, whether people or entities match with our values. The endorsement process, by the outsider perspective, so a normal person would probably assume that a it is a neutral and objective decision, but it actually isn't. And a perfect example of what you just said, I filed on March 11th, the last day to file. But many of the endorsements that you will see were endorsed well before in January. So why would that happen unless they had no interest in actually looking for what one might think is the best suitable candidate for the district to represent the district? Most of those decisions were done well before the filing period closed. Yeah, I wasn't able to have the conversation with union memberships or with specific um, electeds. So is it a fair process? Not likely. But I also think that this is the conversation that voters are starting to really think about, or I at least get the sense of it is, one, people are apathetic. Two, they're not only apathetic to politics to some respects, during what's happened in the last few years, but also people are questioning whether these endorsements really do fall true to their values and true to who they feel represents them.
I'm very happy. I mean, as an individual and as someone who knows you and as someone who is not about doing what the status quo does, happy that you still got into the race, because I know that outside there was chatter about, oh, she got into the race too late. I'm excited that you did that. I'm excited that you got into the race and that you are not wedded or tied to these endorsements, although you are very worthy of many of the endorsements that have been passed out. One that was interesting to me, and I saw this somewhere online in my scrolling, trolling moment, that the Chamber of Commerce had endorsed the incumbent, Zendaya, and it that bothered me. And the reason it bothered me is because me knowing that you are a small business owner, that you and your husband own a small business, and that you're MBA graduate, and it's like, wait a minute, here's someone who exhibits business. That actually bothered me. How are you navigating through those spaces? Are you, I mean, kind of still in this whole endorsement thing? Are you just like, just let me connect with the voter? I mean,
I
because
mean,
because here's a question: does that even matter to the voter?
you know, I think as a candidate, I will always be open to a conversation with every interested party, and particularly with our voters. I think the most important endorsement is that of community, and it is why even in the 2019 election, when I was outspent 10-1, I still came pretty close, right? 163 votes isn't very much, and I was outspent 10-1. So I think what I presented in that election and even in this moment is that people are interested in having someone who's of service, who's in community, who shows and demonstrates what I hope is for what we're all looking for, someone who will serve our needs on council. um, I'd like to think that my experience plays well in terms of just my candidacy. I started my career with nonprofit work, consulting small businesses for job creation and job retention. Then I went out to East Right. I got my MBA and I managed projects for a Fortune 500 company. And then I'm a small business owner. That's on the professional standpoint. On a community standpoint, I'm someone asked me earlier, what's your platform on? And I said, it's education, because I think education is at the premise of everything: how we uplift, how we invest, and how we make decisions. It's not a matter of who's at the table. While you do want diversity in thought, you want to make an informed decision that supports the city, the people of Long Beach, right? So I feel like that conversation has to be had, and why I entered the race. It was a difficult decision. I mean, running for office is not an easy task. But I think it was important to have with the voter that the narrative that's going to be pushed the other way isn't true. We are not being served. And there's a reason why so many candidates, not just here in the first district, but across the city, are coming against this status quo and saying, what's going on? Where is our tax dollars going? Why are we not building? You probably hear there are three things that every voter is top of mind concerns: public safety, homelessness, economic recovery. And we can all sort of tell you what our plans are, what we think could be a great idea. But until we're behind the dais, well, there's one doesn't really know. But what you can ask yourself as a voter is, who will you trust in that decision making?
Trust.
And that's one thing that I feel when I connect with voters. I can win them over every time because I, my husband will tell you, what do I do on a voluntary basis? I'm in community all the time, volunteering my services to improve the neighborhood, to improve our children's outcomes, to improve what, we do during the recovery. Despite the pandemic, I was helping our most vulnerable populations. I organized volunteers to distribute. Jerlene, you were right there with me, those food boxes in 2020. But I was also volunteering and organizing volunteers to provide over 23,000 individually wrapped meals to our seniors. So when I knocked on those doors in those buildings in the first district now, they remembered me. And I never did it because I was thinking I'm going to run again. I did it because that was what was necessary at the time. And that's what we need to have right now, is that independent voice to do what is necessary for the people of Long Beach.
You're reading my mind. I was going to ask you a question about your connection to education. You answered it. I was going to ask you about those 3 points that everybody was talking about, and you talked about it. Yet I do, like you said, as you cast your vote, who will you trust? And I have to say, I am no longer a voter in the first district. But if I was a voter, I would trust you. And thank you for giving, like, for me, an opportunity, for me and my family, an opportunity to be able to serve. And during 2020, and I was part of that, distributing boxes. And you also were able to connect one of the historical churches in Long Beach with an opportunity to do food distribution, because their food distribution resources had dried up. And had it not been for your connection, they would have not been able to continue to serve the community. And so, I mean, I don't think I ever told you that. So I wanted to say thank you for that, because even after I stopped doing delivery, I know that church continued to use the resource that you had connected us with to be able to serve. So, thank you for being a public servant. So I know people are like, oh, Jerlene is being so biased. I am speaking from experience right now. I am absolutely speaking from experience, and it's shameless. It's shameless.
But
Um,
that's the one thing I think people. One of the things I don't share very often, my own personal story, because in part it's not that I don't have. Everyone has a story, right? But I think the reason why for me public service is so important is that I come from very humble beginnings. Why I stepped up to the ring when I got the call during the pandemic to help our seniors was that I remember as a kid, we relied on churches to provide for us when we hit hard times. Part of the reason why education is so important to me is that my parents taught me that with hard work and education, that was the key to our success. I was an undocumented person into this country. I was born in Mexico and I came to the States. I actually became a citizen in 2012. Most people don't know that because they see me as the person that you see today. But I'm very proud of those beginnings because I want people to realize that if you give people the opportunity and if you give people the education, a quality education, they are the precursors to economic opportunity, economic empowerment, and educational attainment. So we have to place, in my opinion, education as a primary sort of resource. I mean, we have to push that forward, but also a lot of what the prevention work that I don't think often is talked about in any of those big issues. Those public safety, homeless. We often only address the outcomes, but never the prevention of what we can do to change that narrative. So, again, for me, it's about being of service to the community. I'm a mother first and foremost, and I care about what the future will look like. Everybody talks about the diversity of the city. That's the strength of the city, but I often question people, how much are we actually investing in that diversity? Because here in the first district, for example, that downtown plan in 2012 has displaced it's estimated 20 to 30,000 people. What does that, and that's just housing, and you can go down topic by topic in terms of what has the city done to really invest in the people of Long Beach and change the outcomes for for our residents, for our children. There's so much we can talk about, and I don't know if I'm um, going beyond my time, Jerlene, but I just want people to know that There is an opportunity in this election cycle to bring new leadership onto council who really cares about the future of Long Beach and whose the only vested interest is to serve the city of Long Beach in a way that's objective and not tied to special interest. Because we're at a moment where economic recovery is here, but also what does a looming deficit look like, and who will you trust behind that council to make those tough decisions?
I could talk to you all night. I could talk to you all night. I could talk to you all day. I could talk to you any and every day. Yet I know that you're a mama and you're a candidate, so you got to go to bed. Yet what if you see, I'm pulling up some of the comments that are coming in support of you. And what I would like to do, I want you to go ahead and share your last thoughts with viewers. Last thoughts with those who can vote for you. Last thoughts for those who are unable to vote for you, but you can still support you. If you want to learn more about Mariela, I'm just going to put this up here while she does her closing remarks, and then I'll go ahead and close out. So I'm actually gonna remove myself from screen because you need this stage by yourself at this moment. So please, do your closing remarks.
Oh my, I feel like I'm supposed to be inspirational right now. This we're really at a moment where I think people are tired, and I understand it. We're exhausted from the pandemic. We've all had different challenges and struggles, um, but we do have an opportunity in this election cycle to bring new voices to council. So I encourage anyone who's listening is one, you have an option here. I'm running for Long Beach City Council in the first district. I believe we need public servants, not politicians. And my history and not only work in the community, but my just in my everyday actions, I'm of service to the city because I care. I care about the future of Long Beach. So whether you live in this first district or you live outside of the first district, council makes decisions for the entire city. And this is an opportunity. This seat is an opportunity, in my opinion, one of which is of crucial importance about what that looks like for the entire city, but also to have an independent voice. There are a lot of other races going on. The primary will happen, but I think in this election, if people support, there's a couple of ways you can support a candidate. One, obviously, is to donate to a campaign. I'm supported and funded only by the people, family, friends, small business who's coming to bat for me. But also you can support by your time. If you support a candidate, this weekend, we're always canvassing and phone banking. That's important. So I ask you all to just do your homework. Our democracy depends on you being an informed voter. And I hope you know that in this election, you have someone who is of service to community. And I look forward to being a service to the city the way I think we all hope for.
Thank you. Democracy depends on us being an informed voter. Y'all hear that? Democracy depends on us being an informed voter. This is what this is all about. Thank you, Mariela, candidate, first district, Long Beach City Council, first district candidate, wife, mother, small business owner, commissioner, servant leader. Hey, folks, if you want to support Mariela, I'm gonna put this back up again. Here's her website. The way that I connected with Mariela back in 2019, I wrote a note on the side of a sign-in sheet at a candidates forum, and it said, "I am so and so. Please call me." And she called me. She actually called me. And then we ended up connecting in the education space and have been doing advocacy work in education. And when you talk about someone who understands numbers and finances and budgets, I'm a little limited some days, but she has been a major support, just even in the movement of education here in our city and ensuring that students are properly being advocated for. So, again, take the time, check out our website, make a financial contribution. Now, many of you know I have not come out and said that for any candidates. I have not told you to support anybody. I have not encouraged you to make any contributions. But tonight, today, this morning, this evening, middle of the night, 2 in the morning, whenever you are watching this, I am putting it out there again. Wife, mother, business owner, servant leader. She deserves our support. And just like she said, democracy depends on an informed voter. If you are watching this, if you're watching this now, please give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Give us a heart. Let us know. Comment. If you're watching this after the fact, put replay. Please share this. If you live in the first district, circulate this. And as I said, this race is not going to be won on social media. It's not. Yet it can have an impact. It can reach a voter that is trying to make that last moment, that last minute decision, or is unsure of who to vote for. Many of you, I received 12 mailers the other day. 12 mailers the other day. So as she shared, her candidate is receiving outside money. And then there's other candidates, and I applaud the other candidates who are out there. I've had an opportunity to bring one candidate on, and I'll just go ahead and say Rich Charlie, because he's all in too, right? Yet he knows where my heart is. I've already told him, but I still support him in being in this race and everything, because he's about the democratic process as well. So again, Mariela, thank you. I know you got to get yeah, and I'm sure because you own it. I know your baby's already in bed, so you probably need to go to bed as well. So anyway, thank you, people. It's been Jerlene, Talk of the Town. All politics are local, live from Long Beach. Mama with a voice, here to engage, inspire, inform, and hopefully we made you laugh tonight. So thank you, and don't leave the broadcast. Don't leave the studio, Miss Salgado.